Today we're going to talk about one of my absolute favorite entries in the Dragon Quest series, Dragon Quest IV: Chapters of the Chosen. This particular Dragon Quest game has been released on a wide array of platforms, including the Famicom, NES, PlayStation 1, mobile devices running iOS and Android, and the Nintendo DS, which is what you're looking at right now. And in my humble opinion, this is the absolute best version of Dragon Quest IV ever released. While it's certainly not as convenient as playing the game on your phone, since you have to take another device with you, there's certainly something to be said for tactile buttons and the beauty of having two screens. The original version was released in North America very late in the NES's lifespan, somewhere around October 1992 to be precise. And to give you an idea of just how late into the NES's life that was, you could have played The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo or Dragon Warrior 4, which is what the series was called back then. One guess which players gravitated towards. That's right, virtually no one picked this game up on the NES, and while I would love to give you a rundown on this NES version, I'm purposely going to hold off doing that because one day I would actually like to review that game. So today I'll just say that it sold horribly and was the beginning of the first Dragon Quest Dark Age. Fast forward to late 2001 and Enix released Dragon Quest IV on the PlayStation 1. It was a completely remastered game, even featuring a bonus 6th chapter. The graphics look night and day better compared to the NES original, and it would go on to become one of my favorite games on the original PlayStation. This is another game I would like to cover in a future review, so I won't go into any detail about it, except to say that on the back cover of the manual featured in Dragon Warrior 7 on the PlayStation 1, Enix USA actually teased the release date of Dragon Warrior 4 as coming in 2002. And well, sadly, that never happened. After Dragon Warrior 7's 2001 release, the series would enter another brief period of darkness where we wouldn't see a new release until 2005's incredible Dragon Quest VIII on the PlayStation 2. That game was the first real success the series had in North America, and because of it, we saw the releases of several other Dragon Quest games, including Dragon Quest IX, along with the remakes of Dragon Quest IV, V, and VI. And while Steven reviewed Dragon Quest VI on the DS several years ago, we both thought it would be fun to finish off the DS remasters. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I have just played 36 hours of Dragon Quest IV on the DS and finished all of the post-game content, and so I think it's time to talk about it. Dragon Quest IV on the DS is an enhanced port of the PlayStation 1 version. Some of the biggest changes include having access to two screens, so while on the overworld, you can now see the world map on the top screen, which is extremely useful. Characters also have more animations than they did in the PlayStation 1 version, and while in dungeons or in towns you have a greater sense of scope thanks to the two screens. All the bonus content, or post-game as fans call it, is featured here. It's also excellent not seeing any load screens anywhere. So, what's the game actually about, you might ask? Well, for starters, this Dragon Quest is broken up into several chapters, with a prologue centered on a chosen hero, and then 4 chapters focusing on each of the main party members, and a 5th chapter where everyone comes together and beats the main baddie. The first chapter features Ragnar on a quest to locate missing children. The next is about Elena, who is a princess and wishes for more than just to be married off to some person later on in life. She is accompanied by Boria and Kirill, who ensures she is safe as she sneaks out of the castle and embarks on a secret mission. The third chapter focuses on Torniko Taloon, good old Torniko. He would go on to become a fan favorite for the series, who even had his own side series of action-adventure games. Torniko's chapter is all about him going on a quest to open the greatest weapons shop in the entire world. Chapter 4 focuses on Maya and Mina, twin sisters who are out to seek vengeance for their father's murderer. In Chapter 5, all of these characters come together, like I said earlier, and they go about stopping the evil Sorrow from unlocking the secret of evolution and becoming the master of all monsters. There is a little bit more to it than just that, with justification given to explain Sorrow's motivations, but overall the story isn't quite as deep as many modern RPGs you might be accustomed to. That said, I still find the story to be fun and interesting without being bogged down. The combat is very, very similar to all the other Dragon Quest games, but if you're just joining us now, that means you can expect random encounters with a decent encounter rate and text-based turn-based combat. There are no classes to worry about with this entry, which is one of the reasons why I tell people this is a pretty good game to start with for the series. It's simple, yet fun. Each party member specializes in one class or another. The hero has access to offensive and defensive spells, but also some nifty and powerful skills. Ragnar, for example, has no magic abilities whatsoever, but can use various powerful physical weapons that deal impressive damage to foes, and so on. You can swap out party members at any time during battle, so long as the wagon is available. That means when you go in a cave, you'll be stuck with just the 4 party members you've selected upon entering the cave. This is important to note, because if you're like me and switch characters all the time, it's something to keep in mind. Experience is also divvied out according to the wagon's availability. So that means if you're grinding in a cave, only your 4 active party members will gain experience. So really be mindful of that. You want to make sure the wagon is available at all times when you're grinding so that everybody gets experience. And speaking of grinding, there's not too much of a need for it. You will be at an adequate level so long as you explore. If not, then yes, you're going to need to grind. Better equipment is available at new towns you visit, however gold can be kinda hard to come by, so this acts as an extra incentive to grind for a little bit to get the money to purchase the new equipment for your characters, and in turn they get more powerful. I should also mention that while characters leave your active party at the end of a chapter, 1 through 4, they don't lose anything that they're holding on to, so don't worry about that. Dragon Quest IV also has a unique pioneer town where you can recruit select NPCs from around the world to slowly join the town, and you can eventually level up the town to the point where it even has its own unique casino with some very impressive prizes. Mini medals are also present and reward players with a wide assortment of goodies, as per usual. This is all typical DQ stuff. The audiovisual presentation is great, with a nice mix-mash of both 2D and 3D. And I guess I should say that when this game was originally released for the DS, I was a little bit disappointed that more effort didn't go into the port from the PlayStation 1 to the DS. However, I'll say that it sure looks nice in 2018 when I'm doing this review. The animated enemies, the great attention to detail in the backdrops, and even the stage design are all top-notch. What I didn't know back when this game first hit was that both 5 and 6 would be getting the same treatment, and at that particular point in time, 6 was due for a remake anyways, since Dragon Quest V had seen a remake not too long ago on the PlayStation 2. And I absolutely love using the L and R buttons to rotate the camera around buildings, especially with the second screen, as you can easily make out where stairs are in select dungeons. The audio is typical standard Koichi Sugiyama fare, which means if you're a fan of his, you're gonna love the music. And this particular soundtrack is absolutely great, and it introduced some classic melodies that are still in the series to this very day. Finally, there's the post-game content. Now, without spoiling anything, you can acquire a brand new party member and access a set of trials that reward said character with some very powerful gear. There's a new dungeon and a new boss that will test your mettle. My latest playthrough of the game for this particular review lasted 36 hours, and I completed absolutely everything you can complete in the game. While Dragon Quest IV is available on multiple platforms, as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, I stand by what I said earlier. This one remains my current favorite version of this game because of its portability and its polish. One day, I have no doubt Square-Enix will release another enhanced version of this legendary game, But for now, this is the absolute best way to experience this game, and it's also one of the best ways to get introduced to Dragon Quest. This one is a masterpiece.